My name is Julia, and I am a 29-year-old woman married for 4 years to my husband, Nathan. We both work at the same company, though in different departments. While I manage a marketing team, Nathan is part of the IT department. From the outside, our lives seemed perfect. We lived in a cozy 3-bedroom house, had stable jobs, and enjoyed a seemingly happy relationship. But things aren't always what they seem. For the past 3 years, Nathan's parents had been a constant source of tension in our marriage. Initially, they lived independently in their own home. However, financial troubles forced them to sell their house, and they moved in with Nathan's older brother, Lucas, and his wife. From what Nathan told me, the arrangement was far from harmonious. Lucas's wife, Michelle, was vocal about her dissatisfaction, often clashing with her in-laws over their interference in her household. Despite the conflict, I never imagined that their situation would directly affect my life. I always thought Nathan and I were on the same page. We had agreed to set boundaries with our families to maintain peace in our marriage. However, that understanding began to unravel when Nathan's parents started visiting us more frequently. At first, it was harmless, a weekend here and there, but over time, their visits became longer and more intrusive. One Friday evening, after a long day at work, I returned home to find Nathan's parents in our living room. They were sipping tea and chatting as though they'd lived there forever. "Surprise!" Nathan exclaimed, flashing an awkward smile. "Mom and Dad are staying with us for a while." I was taken aback. "For a while? How long is that?" I asked, trying to mask my frustration. "Just until they find a new place," he replied casually. I wanted to argue, but I didn't want to make a scene in front of his parents. Instead, I retreated to our bedroom, where I sat on the edge of the bed, wondering why Nathan hadn't consulted me. It felt like a betrayal of the partnership we had built. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Nathan's parents showed no signs of leaving. They treated our home as their own, rearranging furniture, inviting their friends over, and even criticizing my cooking. I tried to maintain my composure, but the tension was growing unbearable. Nathan, on the other hand, seemed oblivious to my discomfort. He kept reassuring me that this arrangement was temporary, even though there was no plan for them to move out. One evening, I came home to find my mother-in-law going through my closet. "What are you doing?" I asked, startled. She didn't even flinch. "Oh, just organizing things. You've got so many clothes crammed in here. It's no wonder you can't find anything." I was furious but managed to keep my voice steady. "I prefer to handle my own belongings, thank you." She shrugged and left the room, leaving me fuming. I confronted Nathan that night. "Your parents are crossing boundaries. This is our home, Nathan. They can't just do whatever they please." He sighed, clearly uncomfortable. "Julia, they're my parents. They're going through a tough time. Can't you be a little more understanding?" "Understanding?" I repeated, incredulous. "They've been here for 6 months with no plan to leave. How much longer am I supposed to tolerate this?" But Nathan didn't have an answer. Instead, he walked away, leaving me feeling isolated and unheard. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I began to wonder if our marriage could survive this. The breaking point came during one of my business trips. I often traveled for work, leaving Nathan in charge of the house. This time, I was gone for 2 weeks. As always, I kept in touch with Nathan through daily messages. But halfway through my trip, his replies became sporadic, and then they stopped altogether. Concerned, I called him, but he didn't answer. I tried not to panic, convincing myself he was just busy. When I finally returned home, I was exhausted, but eager to see Nathan. However, he wasn't at the airport to pick me up as promised. I called him repeatedly, but there was no response. Frustrated, I took a taxi home. As I climbed the steps to our front door, I noticed something odd. There were unfamiliar shoes by the entrance, and the sound of laughter echoed from inside. I opened the door to find a scene that left me speechless. Nathan, his parents, and a young woman I didn't recognize were gathered in the living room, surrounded by snacks and drinks. They froze when they saw me. "Julia, you're back early," Nathan stammered, clearly caught off guard. "Early?" I said, my voice trembling. "I told you my exact return date. What is going on here?" Before Nathan could answer, his father spoke up. "We're having a family gathering. Would you mind giving us some space?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This is my home. Why should I leave? Nathan avoided my gaze. Julia, please. It's just for tonight. My heart sank. The man I'd trusted and loved was siding with his parents, treating me like an outsider in my own home. Unable to hold back my anger, I said, "If you want me to leave, then maybe I should leave for good." With that, I walked out, slamming the door behind me. I spent the night at a hotel, replaying the events in my mind. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about Nathan's parents. It was about Nathan's unwillingness to prioritize our marriage. The next morning, I returned to the house determined to confront Nathan. But as I entered, I noticed something strange. The young woman's shoes were still there. Suspicion gnawed at me, and I decided to check the footage from the hidden cameras I had installed months earlier. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. Nathan had been having an affair with the young woman. His parents not only knew about it, but had helped him cover it up. They'd orchestrated the family gathering to keep me from discovering the truth. My hands trembled as I watched the footage. The betrayal was more than I could bear. That evening, I confronted Nathan with the evidence. "How could you?" I demanded, tears streaming down my face. "I trusted you. I defended you. And this is how you repay me?" He didn't deny it. Instead, he tried to justify his actions. "Julia, you've been so busy with work. I felt neglected." "Neglected?" I repeated, my voice rising. "I've been working hard to provide for us, to build a future. And while I was doing that, you were destroying everything we had." His parents tried to intervene, but I silenced them with a glare. "This is between Nathan and me. Stay out of it." In that moment, I made a decision. "I want a divorce," I said firmly. "I'm done." Nathan looked shocked, as though he hadn't considered the possibility of losing me. But I was resolute. Over the next few weeks, I took the necessary steps to end our marriage. I divided our assets, ensuring I came away with what was rightfully mine. I sold the house and moved into a smaller apartment, one that felt like a fresh start. As for Nathan, he lost more than just me. When I reported his affair to our company, he was fired for violating workplace policies. His affair partner also left, realizing Nathan couldn't provide the life she'd envisioned. Nathan's parents, unable to support themselves, moved in with relatives. They'd lost their home, their son's marriage, and their dignity. Meanwhile, I accepted an overseas assignment, embracing the opportunity to start anew. In my new life, I found happiness and independence. I met someone who valued and respected me, someone who proved that love doesn't have to come with betrayal and pain. Looking back, I'm grateful for the lessons I learned. Nathan's betrayal was devastating, but it taught me the importance of self-respect and setting boundaries. I've moved on, leaving the past behind, and I'm finally at peace. While settling into my new role abroad, I took time to reflect on the patterns that had emerged during my marriage. I realized that I'd often compromised my own happiness to accommodate others. This new chapter in my life was an opportunity to put myself first. In my time overseas, I discovered the joys of exploring new cultures and meeting people from different walks of life. I joined a local community group, where I made friends who quickly became my second family. Their warmth and acceptance reminded me of what it felt like to be truly valued and supported. One of those friends, Ethan, became particularly important to me. He was kind, patient, and had a knack for making me laugh even on my worst days. We started spending more time together, and before long, our friendship blossomed into something more. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe freely, without the weight of someone else's expectations dragging me down. Ethan's family welcomed me with open arms, and I found myself marveling at how different they were from Nathan's. There was no judgment, no manipulation, just genuine care and respect. It was a stark contrast to the chaos I'd left behind. As I built my new life, I occasionally heard updates about Nathan and his family through mutual acquaintances. It seemed that their situation had only worsened. Nathan struggled to hold down a job, and his parents continued to rely on him financially. The young woman he'd had an affair with had moved on, leaving Nathan to face the consequences of his actions alone. Knowing this didn't bring me satisfaction. Instead, it reinforced my belief that I'd made the right decision. Staying in that marriage would have meant sacrificing my own well-being for people who didn't value me. By choosing to leave, I'd reclaimed my life and my sense of self-worth. Now, as I sit in my cozy apartment overlooking a bustling city square, I feel a profound sense of gratitude. The path that led me here was painful and filled with challenges, but it ultimately brought me to a place of peace and fulfillment. I've learned to trust myself, to stand up for what I deserve, and to never settle for less than a love that uplifts and inspires. My journey is far from over, but I'm excited for whatever comes next. With Ethan by my side and a renewed sense of purpose, I know that the best is yet to come.